Shalom, shalom. This is Brother Mayum coming at you from GMS Tampa Bay. First and foremost, I want to give all the praise and all the glory unto Yahweh, Bahashim Yahawashi, Bahashim Racha HaKodash. Double honors to the elders, apostles of Great Millstone, and much blessing and salutations unto the Akim around the four corners of the earth, who are diligently pushing out this truth in its truth and sincerity. And just want to do a quick video, just going to see, seeing how you just had a couple little shakeups, take place in the really in the whole financial world, as far as currencies and certain assets and their values. And this all came spiraling down, just after, Donald Trump named the new Fed, the federal bank, or the Federal Reserve chairman. I believe his name is Kevin Warsh. And, shortly after he named him the Fed chairman, you had gold and silver, start to take a dive. And again, gold being, I believe it's back up around that $5,000 mark. Yep. Currently, right now, it's at 5,067. So it was close to 6,000, but again, and silver, was up there too in the hundreds. Which, the Apostle Tahar talked about this about a day or two ago. And speaking on how the price of gold and silver is a representation of the value of the dollar decreasing. As the value of these commodities, gold and silver, goes up, so does the value of the dollar go down. All right, they work in tandem with each other. Okay, and so you have this little minor fluctuation, with prices kind of coming back down a little bit, but still well above the average. Okay, this is still well above record highs, in regards with both gold and silver. Okay, so this is just we're getting close to a point to where they're getting ready to collapse this dollar, all right, and bring about a new form of currency, which is going to be able to, because as the scriptures talk about, Esau Edom ladeth himself with thick clay, being that debt, that heavy debts. He's now creating this new system, this new financial system, so that he can do away with all this debt that he has accumulated over the years, especially here in America. America, I believe, has over $30 trillion, if not close to $40 trillion at this point in debt. And that's how America has run itself, is they have indebted themselves to these other nations, and then they sell off the debt, which is crazy. They sell off the debt, but that goes to show you how throughout the past, how strong the dollar was, that people were willing to buy U.S. debt treasury notes because they knew the value of the dollar. When they get that money back, it would be more. Okay, but now we're getting to a point to where the dollar is decreasing, and what do you see happening around the earth? You see these nations dumping these treasury bonds. Okay, like you just had over in the EU a couple entities out there. I can't remember the names of the names of the two entities. I believe one of them was from Denmark and the other one was from Germany. But they were U.S. Treasury bond holders, and they dumped them. All right, you had one of them that dumped $100 million worth of U.S. Treasury bonds, and the other one let go of $8.8 billion of U.S. Treasury bonds. Now that may seem insignificant to some, but that's a whole lot of money. Of bonds that went right back to the United States, okay? And now, for brothers that have been, keeping track of economic news and shit like that, we know that Japan was one of the higher bidders, or one of the high players when it comes to U.S. Treasury bonds over the last decade or so. They've held the most, and they themselves have been selling, not to a certain extent, because their currency is heavily tied to those U.S. Treasury bonds. So if they were to try to sell off all their money or all their Treasury bonds, they'd be screwing themselves or shooting themselves in the foot. But as of late, from For those of you that have been watching, Japan has been doing some very interesting stuff when it comes to their financial world. Okay, they've been setting themselves up to get away from their current system, which their yen, which is their currency of Japan, is complete trash. All right, it's not worth a damn, and those people, as far as currency goes, are completely through out there. All right, but you have other nations like Germany, who is coming out with these digital wallets, or they're trying to come out with these digital wallets, and it seems to be a growing trend among these nations that their currencies are being devalued. These nations, all these nations that you see coming out with these digital wallets are the same nations that you see having issues with their currency being devalued, including here in America. And you have Trump talking about what? Making America the crypto capital of the world. And it's not a coincidence that he's doing that. Okay, you have to understand that the US dollar is the global currency still to this day for the majority of trade being done on the earth. So for the US to become the new crypto capital of the world, Trump is trying to position America to remain in power as far as currencies go. And this is where that tug of war is happening, globally, with the BRICS nations primarily, where they're creating their own form of doing trade outside of whatever U.S. currency is being used. Okay, because they see that as they've been throughout the years enslaved under the dollar, it never benefited them. They were always deemed the enemy. All right, and if they weren't deemed the enemy, they had to play along, because if they didn't play along, then they would consequently become enemies, as we've seen happen in Libya. All right, as we've seen happen in Iraq. All right, as we've seen happen with Venezuela. Okay, so on and so forth. These nations that have decided to stop doing business with America in one way or another have become attacked. All right, they have become so to say ostracized to a point to where these nations have been economically hurt. Look at Venezuela. Back in the late 2010s, Venezuela started getting sanctions put on them because they didn't want to play ball. Then America tried to back an opposition for president of Venezuela named Juan Guaido, and that never panned out. So then they tried to kill Maduro. And now they finally got his ass. They went up in there in the dead of night with their discombobulator. It was a funny name, and wreaked havoc over there. But this is what we see happening, man. And this is what's going to come to America here very soon. Soon this US dollar is not going to be needed anymore, and they're going to create a way for this to seem like it's not America's fault that their currency perished. But you see how you see how some Americans are at least privy to the fact that the US currency is being devalued by their own government. Especially with Trump doing all these cutting all these deals with ex-partners, where now they're no longer doing business together. All that is causing inflation. And what inflation is the devaluing of the dollar. Your dollar is now worth less. You have to use more dollars to buy the same product. The same weight of a product, you having to use more dollars. That means the dollar is losing its value. It's not that a product is becoming more expensive to make, because it's still the same product. It still takes the same amount of materials to make whatever the product is. So the cost is not going up. Okay? It's the value of the currency that's being used to purchase that is what's the problem. But what's going to happen here in America, and as the scriptures say, it's going to become a penny, a day's wage is going to be what's going to be needed to buy yourself a loaf of bread. Okay? For you Israelites, you know that a day's wage ain't shit. You got Israelites that to this day are making about $100 to $200 a day, if that. Okay? So imagine $100 to $200 that you making in a day, that you're not even getting paid that day, but that's how much a grocery bill is going to cost you. And you see how people have already been complaining about grocery bills going up. So imagine when it comes to a day's wage, it's going to come for being the cost of a little grocery order. Okay, that's what we're going to come to, and the solution is going to be this cryptocurrencies. Okay, and that's what's going to come. That's when the MOTB, all right, and that system is going to be pushed out here to the masses, man. That's when people are going to be suffering so bad that they're going to be tempted to get this RFID microchip, because you can no longer sustain yourself with getting those US dollars. It's not worth anything. So what you're going to do is resort to transferring all your earned wages over to these digital currencies so that you can receive it. And the only way you'll be able to use these currencies is via the chip. Because without the chip, you're not going to be able to access this money. It's just going to be sitting in an account. Okay? You'll have to be tied into the system, otherwise you won't be able to use it. All right? That's why it's important, man, to have faith unto Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua, and to pray and hope for deliverance from these times that we're getting ready to come into, because this is going to be something terrible, man. A lot of people are going to die. The scriptures talk about that it shall be better to die by the sword than to die by famine. And you're going to have famines out here. You're going to have people not being able to afford food that are going to be pining away. That's a terrible way to go, man. Just imagine the feeling when you've completed a fast or so, where you've gone a couple days, 2 or 3 days without eating. You get to a point to where you hungry, man. If it's your first couple times doing a fast that long, you hungry, you ready to eat at the end of that fast. Imagine that when you're in dire straits, and you have that feeling that hunger kicks in, and your ass is caught up in some bullshit that's happening out here in this society, man, where shit is falling apart left and right. Imagine that feeling. You having a run and you hungry as hell. You're going to feel weak. Okay? And you're not going to be able to do a damn thing against these well-fed troops that are going to be ransacking the shit out of your homes. Because you see that's what's happening. These troops are already out here on the streets of America. People all in fear. I got a Jake, this Manassite over at my job. This motherfucker don't want to do road calls no more. He don't want to go out and when a truck breaks down, we got certain of us, including myself, I'm one of the road call guys, where if a truck breaks down on the road, hey, we need somebody to go fix it because it's either loaded, or we need to get this truck back to the shop, So this Manassite is so terrified of ICE that this man doesn't want to do the job no more. He just would prefer to just sit at the shop and do whatever jobs we got to do at the shop than to be called out to a road call and get caught up with ICE. That's how afraid you got Jake is out here, man. Well, they're afraid to do their job. And it's only going to get worse, man. As the dollar continues to be devalued, the more antsy people are going to become. And as the more chaos continues to ensue with these ICE agents and more sedition starts, the more chaotic it gets, the more your life is going to hang in the balance. Remember, the scriptures talk about that the curses that befell the Israelites is going to fall on our enemies. So these things are getting ready to happen onto these heathen nations that you see around us, and to you Israelites that have become like unto heathens. You getting ready to suffer a great, great wrath. And it comes from the Heavenly Father, man. Yahweh Bashim Yahushai. Call halal Yahweh Bashim Yahushai, man, for this knowledge, wisdom, and understanding to be able to understand these things prior to them happening so that we may have the opportunity to escape. This is what we hope for, man. This is what we pray for. This is why the Heavenly Father has given his wisdom, knowledge, and understanding to a few in these last days. So that it would be so precious, this information would be so precious, and those that would receive it would cherish it, man. That's why this isn't meant for everybody. That's why we're not out here to gather up all Israelites, because we understand, those of us that have the true spirit of the Lord, that this word is not for everyone. And the Messiah Yahushua said this to his own disciples. I speak to them in parables because it is given unto you to know the kingdom, the mysteries of the kingdom of heaven, but unto them it is not given. So this word, this understanding of this word is meant to be precious. It's meant for only a few. That's why many are going to suffer, because they didn't receive it. Just like they didn't receive Yahushua. That's why Yahushua looked at them women that was weeping for him, and he said, weep not for me, weep for yourselves and your children. Because you're going to have it much, much worse than I am. That's why Yahushua, even though he had that moment of, I don't want to have to go up on this cross because I know this is going to be I know this is going to hurt, but he still took it cheerfully. He still went up on that cross. Why? Because he knew that it was not going to be as bad as what was getting ready to come. And this is the same mindset that we have here in the spirit of Yahweh Bashim Yahushai in these last days, is that we understand that we would rather suffer now than to suffer what's to come, because that what's getting ready to come to the earth, you ain't going to want to be a part of, but a lot of people are. Because wide and broad is the way that leadeth unto destruction. Fucking clowns, man. Don't know how to fucking drive. It's lucky for my language. But this is why it has been an imperative thing for you Israelites to get this word, get this knowledge while you can. Seek ye the Lord while he may be found. That's the scriptures. That's what it says in the Bible. Seek ye the Lord while he may be found, while he is near. Because the hour and the time comes when the Lord is not going to be found. And in that day, if you wait to that day to then try to come to your senses, it's going to be too late. You will be done for. You will be dead. Your life will be but moments away from an imminent death. At every corner, you're going to see death. That's what's going to be witnessed by those that didn't receive Yahushua, man. Okay? But I'm going to go ahead and end it there. I just wanted to bring out that point real quick. I know I was, I'm just doing this in transit. I wasn't able to get, many scriptures as I usually do. It's a little bit of a traffic out here. But, Lord's will is Rosettifying. And I want to give all the praise and all the glory unto Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahushai, Bahashim, Rachah HaKodash. Double honors to the elders, apostles of Great Millstone. Much blessing and salutations unto the Akim around the four corners of the earth who are diligently pushing out this truth and this truth in sincerity. With that, I say Shalom.